All across here on the Mount of Olives, you will see literally thousands and thousands and thousands of these tombstones.
But where I'm standing today is the graveyard. Some of these graves are over 3,000 years old.
For 500 years, the Eastern Gate has stayed sealed, guarded by stone, graves, and prophecy. But something is shifting. The cemetery on the Mount of Olives, where Jews believe the resurrection will begin, is slowly creeping toward that very gate. Some say it's coincidence. Others whisper it's the countdown to a moment the world isn't ready for. The Mount of Olives isn't just a hillside outside Jerusalem. It's a timeline written in stone. More than 150,000 graves cover its slopes, some dating back centuries, others fresh and newly carved. For over 3,000 years, this has been the most desired burial ground in all of Judaism. Why? Because Jewish tradition teaches that when the Messiah comes, resurrection will start here first. To be buried on this mountain is to stand at the front of the line when the dead rise. But something strange has accelerated over the past few decades. As older burial plots fill the upper ridges, new graves are being placed further down, inching closer toward the Kidron Valley and the sealed Eastern Gate. It's not random expansion. It's alignment with an ancient belief that the king will return through that very entrance. This discovery could rewrite history. The question is, will you keep it to yourself, or will you let the world see? Hit that subscribe button, drop your thoughts below, and share this before the truth is buried again. The Eastern Gate, also called the Golden Gate, faces the Mount of Olives directly. It's the only gate in Jerusalem that opens straight toward the Temple Mount. But today, it's sealed shut with massive stones. Most people don't know why. In 1541, Sultan Suleiman the Magnificent ordered it sealed, fearing the Jewish prophecies that a Messiah would enter through it. To make sure no priestly figure could cross it, a Muslim cemetery was placed in front of the gate. They believed graves would block a holy man from passing through. But prophecy doesn't tremble at stone or superstition. Ezekiel wrote that the gate would stay sealed until the prince enters. And now, from the other side, something unexpected is happening. The Mount of Olives cemetery is growing in the direction of that very gate, one grave at a time, as if tracing a path only prophecy could draw. Stand on the ridge of the Mount of Olives today, and you'll notice something easy to miss unless you know the history. The graves aren't spreading randomly. They're flowing downhill in a steady line, pressing closer toward the ancient walls of Jerusalem. Some researchers estimate that thousands of new burials in recent decades have reduced the distance between the Mount and the Eastern Gate more than at any other time in history. What was once a slow expansion has turned into a visible movement. And this isn't cheap land. Burial plots here can cost $30,000 to $50,000 each. People are paying enormous amounts, not for scenery, but for position. Front row placement for what they believe comes next. Some rabbis even teach that those buried farther away will rise by rolling underground through hidden tunnels to reach the Mount of Olives when resurrection begins. But others don't want to risk being late. Just below the Mount of Olives lies the Kidron Valley, also called the Valley of Jehoshaphat. According to the prophet Joel, this is where God will gather the nations for judgment. From the highest graves to the lowest slopes, every tomb faces the Temple Mount and the sealed Eastern Gate. This alignment is no coincidence. For centuries, Jewish families have chosen this exact mountain because they believe resurrection will begin here the moment Messiah arrives. To them, being buried elsewhere means rising second.
To Christians, this hope echoes 1 Thessalonians 4:16. The dead in Christ will rise first. But the movement of these graves isn't only creating anticipation, it's closing a physical gap. Every new burial shifts the boundary of the cemetery closer to the old city walls, as if prophecy is being written into the earth itself. And once that boundary reaches the gate, the question will no longer be if, but when.
There's something unusual about the placement of these graves. They're not just expanding outward, they're aligning with the exact direction of the eastern gate. That gate isn't random architecture. It's the only entrance that leads straight to where the Holy of Holies once stood on the Temple Mount. In ancient times, kings and priests walked this route during sacred processions. Ezekiel 44 says the Prince, the Messiah, will enter through this very gate. Yet it remains sealed by a ruler who feared prophecy more than any army. And now the dead are advancing toward it as if summoned by something older than politics or stone. Even more mysterious, archaeologists believe there are sealed tunnels beneath the mount, underground passages, some linked to ancient burials, temple routes, and possible resurrection pathways. If prophecy is movement, then the ground itself may already be rehearsing the moment feet return to this mountain. The Mount of Olives isn't only important to the future. It holds the memory of a moment that already changed history. It was here that Jesus prayed, taught, wept over Jerusalem, and finally ascended into heaven. Acts 1 says the disciples stood on this very mountain as he was taken up before their eyes. 2 angels appeared and declared that he would return in the same way. That means his feet will touch this mountain again. And Zechariah 14 adds a detail most people overlook. The mountain will split in 2 when he arrives, forming a massive valley. Imagine thousands of graves positioned directly above a fault line of prophecy, waiting for the earth to break open beneath them. When the cemetery presses closer to the gate, it's not just geography moving. It's the stage aligning with an ancient script. And once it aligns fully, nothing will hold back what comes next.
Look closer at the graves, and you'll notice something symbolic. Every tomb faces the Temple Mount. Each one is turned toward the eastern gate, like thousands of silent watchers waiting for it to open. Jewish tradition treats this direction as intentional. When the Messiah comes, they expect him to appear from the Mount of Olives, move toward the gate, and enter the city. And yet, the irony is striking. Muslims built their own cemetery at the foot of the gate 500 years ago, attempting to block his arrival by defiling the path. They believed a holy man wouldn't cross over graves. But prophecy doesn't bow to fear or superstition. The Muslim graves guard the outside, while Jewish graves advance from the opposite side. It's as if 2 belief systems unknowingly throws themselves into position, one trying to stop the king, the other waiting to meet him. The expansion of the cemetery isn't just spiritual, it's strategic. For centuries, burial on the lower slopes of the Mount of Olives was rare. The oldest graves stayed high, closer to the ridge. But as space disappeared, burials moved downward, filling the hillside toward the valley and the old city walls. In the past 2 decades alone, new sections have pushed closer to the eastern gate than at any point in history. Some researchers warn that within a generation, the cemetery could press right up against the ancient stones of the wall. To some, that may seem like coincidence, but to those who track patterns in prophecy, it feels like alignment, like the mountain itself is shifting toward the gate, not in chaos, but in formation. And each new grave carved into the rock doesn't just hold a body, it marks another step toward a moment the world keeps trying to ignore.
Jerusalem has always been the center of attention, but now the pressure around the Eastern Gate is growing in ways few are noticing. Political debates over access to the Temple Mount, tensions between religious authorities and hidden construction beneath the old city all circle the same target, the gate that refuses to open. Some archaeologists have tried to investigate the sealed entrance, only to be blocked by religious and political forces. Others have quietly reported tunnels beneath the area, sealed passages that may connect burial chambers, ancient pathways, and prophetic ground. Meanwhile, above the surface, graves keep advancing like a tide of stone. The closer they come, the louder the question becomes, is this movement accidental or rehearsed? If prophecy is a countdown, then the Mount of Olives may already be in motion, and the eastern gate may be holding its breath for the moment it was sealed to prevent. Psalm 24 says, "Lift up your heads, you gates, that the King of glory may come in." Most people read that as poetry. But what if it's a location? What if those stones in the eastern wall aren't just ruins? They're a lock, waiting for a moment no empire can delay. The graves creeping toward that gate aren't moving with speeches or politics. They're moving with time, with prophecy, with expectation carved in limestone. Jews believe the resurrection will begin there first. Christians believe the king will return to the same mountain he left. And the ground between the two, once empty, is shrinking. No one's announcing it. No one's stopping it. The dead are taking their places while the gate stays sealed from the day it was shut to keep him out. So the real question may not be who closed it. It may be who opens it. And what follows, the first step through.